Having any trouble hearing me, just let me know. Right, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So I'm Karen Tilsley, Director of Programs and Partnerships at Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation. And this is the information webinar for our annual solutions program, which offers innovation and impact grants. So welcome. I expect this presentation will be about 35 minutes, and then, yeah, we'll have lots of time for questions. Oh, all right. So I'll just give you a really brief overview of SHRF, and then we'll get into the details about the grant, eligibility, the application requirements, the process, how the applications get reviewed, and a few key takeaway messages and tips. So SHRF is privileged to be the provincial organization that funds, supports, and promotes the impact of health research that matters to Saskatchewan. We are funded through Innovation Saskatchewan through the government, and then we also work with lots of partners that have similar goals. And we, at the center of everything we do, are 3 strategic goals: to strengthen research capacity and competitiveness, increase investment in research and innovation, and align research with stakeholders' needs. And to operationalize those goals, we offer 4 categories of research funding programs. So one that focuses on capacity, and you probably are familiar with our establishment grant program offered with those goals in mind. Today, we're talking about the solutions program that offers currently the innovation and impact grant. We also have grants focusing on connections, the Align grant, which is in its 2nd year, multiple calls every year, and as well as our Mobilize grant, so looking at knowledge mobilization support for the academic community and beyond the academic community. And then we also have partners on our programs, and we partner on other national funders programs to address some key areas and gaps maybe that we have in our programs, and really to just amplify our reach and connections across the country. So the solutions funding opportunities, behind them is the grand vision of the solutions program, which is to address timely Saskatchewan health challenges, create sustainable impact in a focused area, and to mobilize the research community and partners, academic, non-academic, and mobilize their skills, their resources, and their perspectives to really tackle those timely health issues. So the current program structure has 2 funding opportunities: the Innovation Grant and the Impact Grant, which I'll go into more detail. And then as well within the program, we have those focused areas that are named each year prior to the program launching. The Innovation Grant is sort of earlier in the pipeline, so to speak, and we're looking at catalyzing innovative new ideas and approaches that are targeted at solving a problem that needs solving. And we have $50,000 available for teams for 1 year. And then, you know, you don't have to enter the program at the Innovation Grant level. You decide where your project fits, but maybe you had an Innovation Grant and now you're moving towards an Impact Grant. And those grants are looking at translation of research into real world settings and practical applications. So the solution, the idea has some evidence that it's effective and should be, you know, tested in the real world and see where it could go from there, and have a potential to be implemented, you know, in the future in a wider sense for the benefit of even more people. So that Impact Grant is 2 years and $150,000. The focus areas that we are offering this year with our partners are shown here. And just as a general sense, these areas evolve year to year. And we're looking at a number of different factors: the capacity, filling areas of need, aligning with our stakeholders, and the partnership opportunities and potential for us to make an impact as a funder, and for you to make an impact as research teams. So the new focus area that we launched this year was child and youth health. and we're very fortunate to expand the amount of funding and reach that our focus has in this area by partnering with Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Foundation. So every grant funded through the Child and Youth Health Focus Area will be a partnership between SHRF and Jim Pattison. We are offering for the second year in a row the Rural and Remote Health opportunity. This year we're offering it in both innovation and impact grants. Last year it was just the impact, this year it's both. And so that is a partnership with a number of health research funders in the province that we meet, and we all have this common goal to advance Saskatchewan health research. And rural and remote health is really a topic that is relevant for all of the different funders across all the different disease conditions and everything. So we've come together again to support that. We're continuing our partnership with Alzheimer's Society Saskatchewan to focus funding in research in the area of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And our partnership continuing with Lung Sask, focusing investments in research related to lung health. So we tried to do a better job this year of giving people a sense of the funding that's available across the whole program. So this visual gives you that full picture. So we have at least $1 million available to fund child and youth health focused innovation and impact projects, again with that partnership with Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Foundation, making that larger number a possibility. And we have an additional partnership within this area for one innovation and one impact grant with Saskatchewan Centre for Patient-Oriented Research, and obviously with a focus of patient-oriented research related to child and youth health. The rural and remote health area has at least $450,000 available. The lung health area has at least $200,000, and Alzheimer's and disease and other dementias also has at least $200,000 available. And we do our best. Applications sometimes fit in multiple areas, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And what we do is our best to maximize the number of grants that are excellent grants that are funded with the funding we have available. So we can kind of, sometimes we're able to shift the money around. That's why there's some plus signs indicating that there's some movement there. The timelines, hopefully you saw the launch of the competition a couple weeks back. And the next hard deadline is September 28th. We need you to submit your eligibility check online. And then we do have a chance to go back and forth if we have any questions or concerns. We give about a week in there. And if you aren't able to address our concerns, if we just don't hear from you or it's just not working out, then October 4th is the cutoff. So there's a chance you could be removed from the competition at that point, but that doesn't happen frequently unless you decide that you don't want to go forward. Then you're working towards the application deadline of November 16th. And we've tried to move around these deadlines because sometimes we get feedback that time between the hearing back at early October to November is quite tight. But I really want to emphasize that you could submit your eligibility tomorrow, and I could put you through, we could address any concerns. I could put you through, and you could be starting the full application tomorrow. And well, give me a few days maybe, but right away, you don't have to wait until September 28th. That's just the cutoff. So you are, the sooner that you go through the eligibility process, the sooner you can get started on your full application. And then that November 16th deadline won't seem so close after the eligibility cutoff. And then we have the peer review happening in January, February, and we're able to get the funding decisions to you that first week in March, and the grants do in fact start March 1st. And all of our deadlines are always 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the application deadline requires that your research office signs off that November deadline. So be sure that you give them enough time. They might have a certain number of days that you need to provide them the application, and you want to give them enough time to give you some feedback before they sign off. So who can apply to solutions? First and foremost, somebody on the team needs to be eligible as a principal investigator. And we've got the criteria, what it means to be a principal investigator listed here. And part of that is that the person can hold a grant at one of these institutions that has an MOU with SHRF. And new on that list is First Nations University of Canada. So that's new this year. We're really happy about that. And essentially, yeah, you need somebody that's like job is to, like they have the supports to do research. It doesn't mean that they're like the big head honcho on the team. It means they take on the accountability for the grant, have that administrative leadership role. So it's important to have someone that can meet that criteria. And then other parts of this project team include other co-applicants, personnel, and supporters, sort of on the outside of that circle. Yeah, sorry, a question just popped up, and I'll get to that one in a couple slides, I think. So yeah, the co-applicants are people who are contributing their intellectual, cultural, scientific direction of the project. They're the people that you need at your project team meetings. And then we have three sort of subcategories, descriptors underneath co-applicants. We talk about researcher co-applicants, knowledge user co-applicants, and people with lived experience co-applicants. And Skipper would call those patient partners. So we use those interchangeably. Personnel are the people that you're hiring to carry out aspects of the project. They would also likely be at most of your team meetings, and they're the ones that you're compensating from the grant fund. So you may have some personnel in place at application time, so it's great to be able to include them. And if there's some positions that are yet to be filled, then that's okay as well. Supporters are individuals or organizations who provide a limited or defined role in the project and or have an interest in the proposed outcomes. So supporters provide a letter of support. So they're not really the people who are going to be at every team meeting. They're the people you're giving updates to. They're excited to see how the project goes. Maybe you need them for a key connection to a participant or a community, that type of thing. So those kind of zooming in on that co-applicant area, as I mentioned, there are researcher co-applicants. So those are the people with formal research training and that currently hold a position which supports them to pursue research. Knowledge users can be a really wide variety of individuals who are interested in the applications of knowledge generated from the proposed research. And a person with living experience is an individual who supports the project through their personal experience with a health issue or experience as an informal caregiver. And we recognize that you may in fact identify as all three of these, but it's really about the main hat that you're wearing as part of this project. So you need to identify as someone that's bringing their research position and training to the table, their ability to take the knowledge gained forward into practice, or someone who's really bringing that lived experience to the project. And so if you're a co-applicant, you're not someone who gets compensated from the grant funds. However, people with lived experience are permitted honorarium. That's totally normal and expected. And knowledge users who need to sort of be seconded to do parts of the project, like specific activities related to the project, they can have some time release for them to do that. So that is an eligible expense in the grant. And all co-applicants need to provide a CV or a testimonial. So the testimonials for people with lived experience That testimonial can be written, it can be audio, video, it can be written on someone else's behalf with their sort of approval and acknowledgement that those are the words. And the researcher and knowledge user CVs are different templates. They're Word documents with high-level sections that we developed and tested these over the past year or two, really trying to balance the need for consistency for the reviewers and some guidance, and also the ability to reflect the wide breadth of people that are involved in research and the different experiences and expertise that they bring to the table that are all valuable for the project. Especially in the knowledge user CV, there might only be one section that's relevant to a knowledge user, and that's totally fine. That's the one that you write in. No need to worry about the other sections that's not relevant to you. No concern with that. So the project team has to pass eligibility, and we're going to check this at the full application as well, but to pass eligibility, you need at least 3 people. All of them need to be located in Saskatchewan, and 2 of them need to be researchers. So those people with training and positions that support them in carrying out research. And we want some different disciplines perspectives within that as well. Trainees do not meet that requirement. And then at least one Saskatchewan-based knowledge user. And additional team membership, yeah, you can go beyond that, of course. And some of the partner focus areas, I think this year it's just the Skipper partnership that will require 2 patient partners to be on the team. That would be one exception to this description here. So when you're building your team, keep in mind the expertise needed to carry out the research, to do the analyses, to connect with the different people involved in the research and sort of the future of the research. Everyone should have a clear role and demonstrate how their expertise and experience is beneficial in addressing the research question and or potential impact. So just sort of having 30 people on the team because you think their names look good is not helping you. You want them to have a clear role on this project. If you're an early career researcher applying as a PI, that's fine. You probably want to have some mentorship built in within the team. And if you're an experienced researcher applying, you probably want to be mentoring, the next generation that's going to carry this research forward. So those things are positively looked upon, not requirements, but something to consider. And same with people with lived living experience, not a specific requirement for the team, but can definitely really add important perspectives to your application. And yeah, something to consider how that would be relevant to your project. And yeah, any supporters you think, so it might be health system decision makers, community leaders, community organizations, maybe there's an industry partner that could be interested in this. All of those supporters really speak to the relevance, the importance, and the potential impact of your project. And we've done some new work this year, really trying to support you in supporting your team. So, being a knowledge user, a person with lived experience taking part in this application is probably not, there's probably a lot of new things, unfamiliar things. So we've developed this website here, shrf.ca/your-research-team. And it's got lots of, visual step-by-step guide, talking about what, how to complete the contribution form, how to get on the system. And we're of course here when you run into trouble, but we wanted to give you the resources to help people out as they do their parts of the application. So yeah, we had a question about multiple applications. So as a principal applicant, you're restricted to 1 application per year for the entire solutions program. So that includes both innovation and impact grants. For example, if you are a principal applicant on an innovation grant, but then you're a co-principal applicant on an impact grant, that would be fine. So you can be a co-principal applicant on other grants, but as the sort of named lead taking on responsibility and accountability, just one application, and that includes both innovation and impact. And across all the focus areas as well. If you've applied in previous years and got some comments, we encourage you to revise and resubmit. You'll have a chance in the application form to speak to that feedback. We've really seen that this can go a long way with the reviewers in showing, that you've heard what they said and you've thought about, some different paths forward to address any concerns or kind of go in a different direction. So, take the time to address that. If you have had funding previously and now you have made some advances and have sort of new offshoots, that you are eligible to apply, and just make sure that you complete the section of the application to talk about your previous progress. And if there's any perception that you're asking for overlapping funding to what you already received, then you want to make sure that isn't a concern. Be really clear about this grant being for new research activities. When you're developing your budget, at like the basic level, you're asking for funding to do the things that you've described, and you just need to tell us what that's for within the allowable expenses and justify why you need that. So there's an Excel sheet that you fill out that's got an Excel file. It's got two sheets. So the first one is the SHRF request. So that one is where the 50,000 or 150,000 max comes into play. And it's called the SHRF request, but it includes, the partners that are on the grant as well. So if the grant is being co-funded with Alzheimer's Society, then that's part of the SHRF request. So you fill out the categories there, just the numbers go in the Excel spreadsheet. And then there's a second sheet where you might have other sources of cash or in-kind that demonstrate the feasibility and ability to complete the proposed research. And you'll also do a budget justification, sort of explaining those costs, breaking them down a little bit more so you can see how they're supporting the completion of your project. Something to keep in mind is we've limited $3,000 for travel to academic conferences. That's just not a big part of what this grant is for. There are other sources of funding for that. So keep that in mind. If you go over that, then your budget's just going to get slashed by any amount over that. And then another thing to consider is that total academic knowledge sharing is limited to 10% of the total budget. So academic knowledge sharing are those traditional journal articles, open access articles, and then that would also include the $3,000 for travel to academic conferences. So those two numbers are related. And we want to see that you have set aside some budget or in-kind resources to support some knowledge sharing in a non-academic format for a non-academic audience. So we're sort of forcing your hand to say, like, set some money aside, think about this, think about something you can do, and have the budget to support it. I mentioned before, you are allowed to have time release to allow participation of knowledge users in those activities directly related to the proposed research. We encourage you to have industry partners where that makes sense. If part of your budget is being spent to reimburse them for services, for example, then we ask that they, as an private funded entity, contribute at least 50% of that amount back through cash or in-kind contributions. So kind of showing their long-term investment as well. Equipment is not an eligible expense for this grant, and we really simply define equipment as anything with a lifespan beyond the time of the project. So there's some things that might be debatable. One person's, perspective of the lifespan of an iPad, for example, is different. So it usually comes into the context and what will happen to that iPad after it's being used for the research. So it's better to just reach out to us, let us know what what item that you're not sure if it would be counted as equipment. And then we can record our, if it's approved, then we can record that on the application form so the reviewers know that we talked about it and everything's good. And they're not worried that you have these things listed in your budget. Yeah, and then there's allowable expense policies that apply to all of our programs in the SHRF funding guide. So the purpose of that first step, that eligibility check, is to make sure that you're applying to the right funding opportunity, that you're, got the program purpose, the grant objectives, you're on the right track. We also need to know that the principal applicant is eligible, and it really helps us create review committees that are tailored to the applications that we have. We inform partners, hey, we've got, 5, 6, 7, 10 applications that are of interest. Please confirm that these are relevant to your focus areas. And yeah, it just really allows us to formalize those eligibility decisions. They get recorded on the RMS, that RMS being our online system. But then once eligibility is closed, it's sort of hidden and it doesn't matter anymore. So once you're through eligibility and the full application is opened up to you, don't worry about what's in your eligibility anymore. The peer reviewers aren't going to look at it. They can't see it. It's locked out of view for them. Basically, focus on the full application. You made it through eligibility. If you want to grow your team, change your title, like totally fine. We're going to check again when you submit that you're still eligible. So if you go off the rails, then you could put a lot of work in and be removed from the competition later. So just be sure to check in about any big changes. The eligibility, which I'll just say again, you could submit this tomorrow if you're ready. So you need to think about, this is sort of like, if you can answer all these questions, you could submit this tomorrow. So which focus area does your research address and how? Are there any additional partnership opportunities listed that you're interested in? Which grant, innovation, or impact is most suitable for your proposed project based on the objectives? Who's on your team? Again, to get you through eligibility, that's that minimum 2 Saskatchewan researchers and 1 Saskatchewan knowledge user. You want a draft title and a brief overview of your planned research. And we're looking for 3 suggested Canadian reviewers from outside Saskatchewan that would be able to review different aspects, maybe the topic, the methods, those kind of things. This is an important thing. We don't necessarily get those exact people to review your application. Sometimes that does work out. Ultimately, it really helps us understand the type of expertise needed to review your application, gives us some leads. It's really helpful when you put some thought into that. Yeah, don't wait. Contact SHRF anytime to discuss eligibility. There's a question about out-of-province and international co-applicants being eligible. And so the answer is yes, your team can include co-applicants from across Canada, anywhere in the world, assuming that you've met that minimum requirement of those 3 people, the 2 researchers and 1 knowledge user that are in Saskatchewan. So beyond that, you can have more. And the second part of the question is, can you send project funds out of the province? And the answer to that is no. So maybe there's an arm of your project that's happening in another province, but it's being funded through a different funder, then that's fine. You can talk about that, but you can't send. SHRF's total mandate is that the research has to happen in Saskatchewan. So that's a very definitive answer on that one. There's a question about, do you need to contact potential reviewers in advance before submitting their names? No, please don't. It can just be like a total Google and you're like, wow, that person, you know, they could totally review my application. Yeah, it's better actually if you don't contact them, because that sort of creates the expectation that that they're going to be called upon, which might not happen. You know, lots of factors at play. So yeah, it could be people that you know peripherally, but not that you work with, that you currently collaborate with, because then they'd be in conflict of interest. So yeah, I should have made that clear. You want to suggest people that are not in conflict of interest. So in your area, but not the people you collaborate with. Okay, there's a question about the knowledge user for child and youth health being an adult patient. Yeah, there's no like really detailed rules about who can meet the knowledge user requirement. That, you know, the evaluation of that would happen at the peer review level. So, you know, if that person, yeah. So the answer, Amira, is yes. Okay, I think that's all the questions we had right now. So when you're doing the eligibility form, there's two like text boxes, and I want to spend a minute on this because it sometimes seems like people just write the same thing twice. And I promise you, if you think that we asked for the same thing twice, then you probably read the question wrong. So ask us what you're supposed to be doing. So the first box, you want to tell us why you're a good fit with the solutions program. Why you're a good fit with the focus area, and why you're a good fit with the innovation or impact grant. So you're really talking to SHRF staff when you do that. Then there's a question about your proposed research overview, which of course is helpful to the staff to understand the different topics, approaches that are coming in the applications. The audience for this really is a potential reviewer, multidisciplinary potential reviewer. So you want to give them enough information about your methodology that they could read that and say, oh yeah, I'd be a great person to review this application. So don't copy and paste, really think about the different answers there. And yeah, just take a little bit of a side detour here to share some important information with you about the health research data platform in Saskatchewan. So this is related to the SPORE initiative, and this particular platform is advanced by these partners on the slide here. And yeah, it's a really exciting thing to see come together, and access to this data platform is available for the recipient of the SHRF Impact Grant Partnership. So not to everybody, but to that, to the grant receiving that partnership grant. So the platform streamlines the process for researchers to access health data. There's a central repository that has this master data sharing agreement, and all those organizations are working together behind the scenes. And then there's remote access to that data, and there, you know, the team at the HRDP would work with you to like get you the training you need and support you in what you need to be able to do that. And yeah, so it's a really exciting advancement to have that timely, appropriate, reliable, predictable access to health system data in that remote access environment. And there's data trustees in place for managing those data access requests. And yeah, so this platform is in its early stages. It's being used, it's, you know, in practice. So yeah, if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out directly to them or reach out to us at SHRF, and we can be that conduit to them. Yeah, so wanted to flag that for you because it is a special opportunity for one of the solution grant recipients. So yeah, they've got a website and an email, and yeah, you can grab, we are sending out the slides after this, so you'll be able to grab the information there as well. Okay, so how do you apply? Everything is done online through what the SHRF research management system that we just call the RMS for short. And we have resources to support you. So there's the application package. So that's the one that's specific to this competition. We have the SHRF funding guide, which is a document on our website that is applicable to all of our programs. And after you get the grant, it's sort of that master policy document. And then we also have a manual for using our online system, and then how-to videos on our YouTube channel that you can get to on our website there for different parts, you know, like accepting an invitation, filling out a contribution form, sort of different segments of the process using the online system. We hope that those are helpful. The application form itself, once you've gone through eligibility, this will open up to you. You have the research proposal. The innovation grant allows 6 pages, and the impact grant allows 8 pages. And I will say that sometimes we see applications that, you know, have maybe 5 pages for the innovation grant, and that, you know, seems to really flag reviewers. Why didn't they use the whole 6 pages? So keep that in mind. And we have some questions about sex and gender and Indigenous research considerations. So I want to see your thought process on those important considerations. There's a 1-page timeline that you'll upload. So this is really a visual thing. You upload references separately, use your discipline format, not like, the references from your proposal. And the budget, those Excel sheets I talked about, the justification is a 2-page upload. And then it talks about the team roles, which kind of get auto-filled from the different invitations that you've sent to people, and the contribution forms that those people complete. So they get invited to the application and they have a task to do from their end, and then you'll be able to see what they've done as well. We have a spot to just upload letters of support, and then there's a section about really drawing out those different impacts, and don't forget about that research office signature. And yes, so to confirm, the full application is due November 16th, 4:30 p.m. So that's all the stuff on this slide. That's the stuff that's due in November. A little more about those contribution forms that again are only due in November. So your eligibility, nobody needs to do contribution forms, CVs, nothing like that. So for November, your team everyone needs to do a contribution form. So researchers, knowledge users, people with lived experience, personnel, and supporters have the option to do contribution form as well. So it's a way for that person to upload their CV using the SHRF template directly right there. Just a few sentences really directly about their role on the project and the number of hours, you know, on average that they would be committed to working on this project. And just want to take a moment to emphasize that it is the principal applicant's responsibility to support their team members throughout this process. And we have these resources available to you so that you can, communicate with them about what they need to do, what their expectations are to be part of this team, and use these resources to really support them through this. And then SHRF is here if you're running into like barriers, like access issues, those kind of things, system problems. We're here to help. So yeah, I'm just gonna go back here. So the supporters, we heard feedback and we made a change this year. So supporters have the option, if it's just a supporter that wants to have a letter of support that they email to you and say, we think this is really cool, keep us updated, you can just upload their letter of support. So the principal applicant can do that on their behalf. So you don't have to send the supporters through this contribution form requirement. You can, there could be a case where the supporter really wants to have access to the application online. They can see what's filled in there, the proposal, they kind of get what they're agreeing to. And they kind of have the control to fill in the contribution form. So you have the option, you and your supporters can go either way on that. I mentioned that website, kind of step-by-step instructions. We're not expecting that you just send team members to that link. We're hoping that it's a resource you can use to support your team members. Of course, you can send them that link as well. And then we're going to try something new this year at the end of October, thinking that we're getting close to the deadline there. Hopefully you have all of your team members in place and they're saying, okay, I need to do what? Or you can't figure out how to do the contribution forms. We're gonna have a live help session. So you can come as the person facilitating the application, as the PI, as the person trying to do their own contribution form, and follow along. Chelsea will do this live on the system, fill out a contribution form, the different scenarios, like for knowledge users, people with lived experience, for example, and and then you can ask questions in real time. And I expect that we'll record that and make that available. But I think being there in real time would be just a great reason to get that piece of the application done, because that is the one that we get a flurry of panicked emails and phone calls at the last minute. And so that seems to be a sticking point. So we really want to support you through that. And so we're going to try out this live help session, and hopefully that is helpful. And I'll just emphasize again, if there's like real barriers, difficulties, access issues, contact us, and we're flexible. As long as you're doing your part, we're not trying to throw out barriers that don't need to be there. So just talk to us and we can work through that together. That evaluation framework that I mentioned, this is something that runs through all of our programs, through your reporting, and it's it's a really good framework for just thinking about your research on the whole and how you will make impacts in different areas. So capacity, knowledge, how you could or are informing decision making. And then those health impacts and broad economic and social impacts, you're thinking about the future likely. Maybe there are things that will happen directly from this project, but likely you're sort of looking into the future and talking about what health, economic and social impacts you foresee this research having, should it be successful and scale up and move forward. The review process, there's no secrets about the process. All of our peer review guidelines are posted on our website. This is a committee-based review. So there's a committee for innovation grants and a committee for impact grants. And then we get external reviewers as needed to advise for, sometimes there's those really specialized applications. We only fund applications that receive 3.5 out of 5 on all 3 criteria. So you can't be amazing in one, terrible in another, and have them average out. You need to address all of the right criteria. The committee is multidisciplinary. We don't have people from within Saskatchewan because conflict of interest, but they're from across Canada, so they get the Canadian research environment. And we do have a live discussion of the applications. We do it virtually. We actually have been doing this virtually since about 2015. So we have lots of experience with that, and it's, lots of success with that. But we do think the live discussion is important. And then the funding gets allocated top down in those different funding envelopes that I showed you earlier on. And again, there could be some shifting so that we can maximize the funding for the most number of worthy applications. So the 3 criteria, the first being relevance and need. What Saskatchewan need are you addressing? Like, are you talking about the focus area in particular? the people, the knowledge users, the people with lived experience, the supporters, are they saying, wow, yeah, this is really important, this is filling a need? The quality, so yeah, that's more of the traditional things like, are these methods actually going to produce something? You know, are the analysis plans in place? Is the work plan reasonable, feasible, well thought out? Is the team the right mix of people? Is the application readable? And then that potential for impact is also really important. So does this project have the potential to continue, you know, into something bigger? Do you have plans to share the knowledge? And, you know, those different impact categories that I just showed you, the kind of impact you can have in terms of building capacity, you know, informing decision-making, new knowledge, that kind of thing. So the more detailed list of the review criteria is in the application package. So definitely take a few minutes to read through those. So just got 2 more slides here, and then we will still have time for more questions. Oh, got one question here. So are these grants eligible for access to the health research data platform via SHRF? So for sure, the one grant that's the partnered grant with SHRF would be eligible. And then I can't speak beyond that, what would be eligible to access the data platform, but feel free to reach out to me and or them directly, and you know, we'll talk to each other and yeah, make sure that we can consider those different scenarios. So some key takeaways that want to just kind of bring forward again. So the first thing you need to think about is how your research fits with one or more of the focus areas being offered this year. Does your project align with the innovation or the impact grant objectives? One point I want to drive home is that applications are welcome from all research pillars. There's sometimes a misconception that, you know, we're only looking for, you know, like policy or intervention research. These could be biomedical projects that, you know, are looking for solutions, treatments that, you know, they have a target, they're moving something forward. So applications are welcome from all research pillars. It's really about the grant objectives, the program purpose, and the focus area. Again, all 3 review criteria are important for success. The expertise and experience of the applicant team should address all the key components of the project's focus, the methods, approaches, analysis, and intended outcomes. So something that we, you know, see, you know, sort of a downfall of an application sometimes is there's, for example, a qualitative component, but nobody on the team really brings the qualitative expertise to that team, and instead they're actually the team sort of farming that outside of the team. But if this qualitative aspect of this project is important, then it should be covered within people on your team that are invested in this project and not farmed out to, you know, yeah, that's not where a supporter comes into play to like do your analysis for you. That's not what a supporter is. Okay, be clear on who the knowledge users are from the get-go. So if you're just trying to find a knowledge user to fill that checkbox at the last you know, moment, that's not what this program is about. You want to have at least one person on board for eligibility, and use those resources we have to support their participation. So yeah, it's, you know, these knowledge users by definition are people who don't have research as part of their job. So we need to support them, really facilitate their involvement. And a reminder that you must include some knowledge sharing activities for non-academic audiences. So a reminder at eligibility to really clearly and distinctly address those 2 questions. So the fit with the opportunity and the partner consideration, and then separately those project goals and approaches to support us in reviewer recruitment, and that, you know, description could be shared specifically with potential reviewers. And yeah, my last few points here are just really the grantsmanship matters. So something that happens way more often than I would imagine is that information is not where, let's say the team description is like in the budget, for example. So the application form covers all of the aspects that the reviewers need to read about. There shouldn't be duplication. Like I said before, if you think there's a question that's duplicating information you put somewhere else, then you're probably misreading it, or there's a misinterpretation, or maybe we made a mistake, but I don't think so. So talk it through. There's probably a nuance that you're missing, and you want to write it with a different lens in a different section of the application. So you shouldn't be copying and pasting something from one place and putting it in another. And budget information goes in the budget, team information goes in the team. If the reviewers need to read the budget justification to understand the roles of the team, then they're going to be frustrated, confused, and wonder if you are really clear on what you're doing. A common mistake, I guess, is people spending a lot of their 6 or 8 pages talking about the rationale for why a health issue is important. But this program, really, we already know the health issue is important. We're looking for solutions. So you want to talk about why your research meets a need, addresses a gap. That's where you want to focus your background and rationale, not on why the health issue is important. Keep in mind the multidisciplinary committee. So you want to use terminology that is appropriate, but that doesn't mean glossing over important information. Even when they're outside your discipline, they know that you need like power analyses, that you need to talk about these details of an experiment, or you need to have considered this aspect of your data collection. So don't skip over those important steps. Be sure the application components are telling the same story. Sometimes, you might go and update the budget, and then all of a sudden it no longer matches something that you wrote about the team. So make sure you have some time at the end to make sure that the same message about what you're proposing to do, who's doing it, what your budget is for, that is consistent across those different components of the application. As I'm sure you can imagine, if it's not, the reviewers just get confused, frustrated. They're not sure which one is, kind of the latest update, I guess. So, oops, yeah, be sure of that. Don't be afraid to address those potential pitfalls head on. You're not kicking yourself in the foot by pointing out the potential pitfalls. You're kicking yourself in the foot. I don't think that's the expression. Anyways, you know what I mean? By not addressing those. So address them head on. Do what you can to talk about how you will continue on should you address those pitfalls. And be sure that the different components, your proposal, the timeline, support letters, are for this opportunity. Sometimes people like to recycle things, and it just leaves a bad taste in the reviewer's mouth as they're reading, and it's a bit confusing. Does what's in this letter apply to this application? Are they still on board? If it's a letter you included in a CHR application 6 months ago, get an updated one, which application this is, the date, that kind of thing. And yeah, same with your proposal. It should be tailored for this opportunity. You're not just recycling something you used for a different application. So these are all things that we've seen happen that, might undermine an otherwise great application and kind of become barriers for the reviewers really seeing the potential of a project. So please do take those to heart. And I talked for way longer than I said I would, but I'm not going anywhere right at 1 o'clock. So feel free to stay on for questions. This was all recorded. Hopefully they'll edit out some of, anything that needs to be edited before it's posted. Feel free to reach out to me anytime with questions. If you registered, you'll get a copy of the slides. And Tanya is, available to help with system-related issues, registration, like accessing forms, anything like that. She is available to help. if you want to talk about how your project fits, or kind of those bigger picture questions of the application, then yeah, definitely feel free to reach out to me anytime. And okay, so yeah, there's a question just about, will all the funds be dispersed with this competition? So yeah, I mean, there is always the possibility that we don't have enough applications that are well rated to spend all the money that we hoped to spend, and that's very unfortunate. It's always a possibility. So I can't, yeah, my crystal ball doesn't tell me. I hope that everyone, yeah, puts in the time, and yeah, I guess we will see. Those funds would stay available for research should there not be enough fundable applications. Looking at the focus areas, the interest, the demand, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think there is going to be a healthy competition in these different focus areas. So hopefully I have addressed that, but if not, let me know. And yeah, we'll send out the PowerPoint slides via email to everyone that registered, whether they were here live or not. The recorded presentation, we'll send you that link. It's on our YouTube channel as well. And yeah, I think that is all the questions I'm seeing. So yeah, thank you everyone for taking the time. I'll keep an eye here if you're still typing away with any more questions. But yeah, we're here to kind of guide you to what we're looking for. And if you need any resources to support your team, as you can see, we're always sort of watching where people are running into troubles and taking that feedback and trying to respond to that. So it does help to let us know where you're running into trouble. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you again, everybody, and hope everyone has a wonderful summer. And I hope to see lots of eligibilities popping up, and I will review them throughout the summer as they come in. All right, just getting some thanks, and yeah, thanks to all of you, and great questions. And yeah, I think we'll go ahead and sign off, and hope everyone has a great day. All right, bye-bye.